I'm wondering how all of the nurses and nurse practitioners that are MAGA, that support Donald Trump, support his policies, support his initiatives, I wonder how they're feeling today.
To the U.S. Department of Education, I just want to know, what kind of crack are y'all on? Are y'all on the pink cocaine? What are y'all on? So being a nurse is not considered a professional job anymore? So if being a nurse is not considered a professional job anymore, what's considered a professional job? Being a stripper? Being a TikToker? Like, what is considered a professional job? So the U.S. Department of Education just came out with a list of these jobs, and they're saying that they're not professional jobs anymore. What the hell does that even mean? On the list, I saw teachers. How's being a teacher not? What is going on? I feel like we live in the upside down world. We live in the upside down world. What? Being a teacher is not a professional job. Being a nurse is not a professional job. Working in public health is not a professional job. Going to school and getting these degrees. Some people have advanced degrees in this field. You're telling me that is not considered a professional job anymore? Nurses, how do y'all feel? Being a nurse? Do you know how many nurses I know? Can somebody help me to understand what the fuck is going on? Because what does it mean that these jobs are not considered professional jobs anymore? Help me to understand, because I do not understand.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now recently, the Department of Education just came up with a controversial new list of courses that are no longer going to be considered professional starting in the year 2026. Now this announcement has come as a shock to many people. It has stunned a lot of people, and rightfully so, because when you look closely at these courses, you realize that these are the courses that are predominantly occupied by women. And this of course raises the question, why these courses and why now? And of course, what message does this send to the young women that are pursuing these courses or that are intending to pursue these courses in the near future? Before I dive into my full commentary, I would like us to take a look at a few of these reactions. Every clip and every stitch credits belong to the original creators of the videos. Stay tuned and let me know what you think on the comment section. Do you think this is a strategy to keep women out of the workforce? Let me know what you think. I will be back with more commentary.
They're all mandated reporters, by the way. They're all mandated reporters, by the way. All of the professions that is stated in this new Department of Education proposed rule that is set to take place effective July 2026, stating that all of these professions are no longer professional. Yeah, they're all professions that are mandated reporters, every last one of them. Nurses, teachers, social workers, therapists, all mandated workers, every last one of them. What the Trump administration is doing is not just an attack on female-dominated fields, but on the actual victims themselves. Like, he's literally trying to make sure that he could further silence y'all. And this is all going to be a domino effect, okay? In the last video, I already talked about it with the nurses, okay? By limiting nurses' access to higher education, that is going to directly impact the patient themselves, okay? Not just that, it's also going to deter a lot of people from entering that field, or those who couldn't get into that field without the financial help, without the financial backing. So therefore, decreasing the overall number of nurses. Again, this is going to impact the patients. Same thing for this. By no longer considering these professions as professional, they no longer qualify for the federal backing that's needed to help so many people get into these fields. Therefore, the actual fields are going to shrink. They're going to decrease. And by decreasing these departments, you're also simultaneously decreasing the amount of mandated reporters that are available. So now the victims have less and less resources available to them. And the attackers, they're able to just live their lives unscathed. Considering the current allegations surrounding the president, considering his past of making statements of just, all you got to do is grab her by the, you understand? Even this year alone, he stated that domestic violence amongst married couples, wife and husband, shouldn't be considered domestic at all. It shouldn't be considered violence. And in fact, law enforcement should not be involved. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense because, again, not only are these female-dominated fields, meaning not only were the mandated reporters more likely females are the people that are more likely to take attacks or domestic violence or abuse seriously. Now it makes sense.
So did you guys see all of the female-dominated professions that will no longer be considered professional starting in 2026 summertime? And yes, there is a list. So if you went to school to be a nurse practitioner or an advanced nurse practitioner or a physical therapist or a teacher, which is a really big one, there's a lot of other ones that are on the list that are very much so female-dominated spaces. They are saying that you are no longer a professional anymore. Your degree means nothing. All the people who have gone to school for these things and worked their butt off for 4 years or 6 years, it doesn't even matter anymore because they are changing the whole system. And this is just the start of Project 2025. I do find it weird that they're only choosing the ones that women dominate. I find that really strange because it seems like to me, they are trying to take a lot of steps backward. If you are a woman and you have gone to school for this or are going to school for this, I would definitely look into this and probably raise hell. This is not okay. But you know what's weird? They have taught us what to do and how to do it and to trust in the system for so long. And then when you actually grow up and you do it, they flip the whole system. That's just what they do. They're evil people.
So you mean to tell me that theology is more professional than nursing? That it is more professional than teaching? That's wild. And it's not like I'm against theology or anything. No, but you cannot convince me that theology is more professional than nursing. You cannot convince me otherwise. Because nurses are the people that are needed more. Because these are the people that save people's lives. And guys, what you realize between these two courses is that one is predominantly male and the other one is predominantly female. And that will tell you that there is a hidden agenda behind this decision. You ask yourself, why do the Trump administration want to make the female-dominated careers to be less professional than the other? And that is why I'm emphasizing on the fact that this is a war gauged against women, especially black women and the women of color and the marginalized groups. And you cannot convince me otherwise.
They done just declared war on nurses, women, black women, education, and we got to talk about it. A degree in nursing will no longer be considered a professional degree, but a graduate degree from the perspective of the federal government. Now, this is going to affect not only nursing, but other degrees. And what it's going to cause primarily is that you can only borrow $20,000 per year, and then there's a capped amount, whereas a professional degree, like somebody like a doctor, can borrow up to $50,000 a year. Now, what the government is saying is that this will force the prices of these nursing schools to come down to sort of meet what the federal government is giving out. But of course, you and I, we know that never really happens. Now, to me, when I saw it, it clearly looks like something that fits into the agenda of this current administration and what they're trying to do. They said that they were going to gut the Department of Education. And this has meant moving a lot of those different aspects of the Department of Education into other departments as they gut the Department of Education. But kind of, just to give you an analogy, it's kind of like Uno stacking. They don't do anything unless it's going to cause the maximum hurt, the maximum harm, the maximum pain. And so the first thing that this is going to do is it's going to demoralize a lot of people. So if you've gone to school for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years in attaining those degrees and becoming a professional, even though this classification doesn't mean that you're not a professional, just saying the word has an effect. When they say that you are no longer considered a professional from the standard of the federal government, just saying that has an effect. And so for all of you women out there who are not what they would call minorities, now you know how it feels to be called a minority, because a minority is really somebody who is under the age of 18, and they have put you in the position of a child by using a classification. Now, this is what these people do. They do all kinds of divide and conquer tactics. And so while it's not a hot war, it is a war of words. And once those programmed words get into your mind, they definitely have an effect. Now, any doctor who is quietly sitting around saying, yes, they took a stab at those nurses, and one doctor even admitted that he was jealous because doctors have to go through a little bit more to be doctors, and yet nurses are making the same kinds of salaries when they do the stacking of their particular certifications, okay? But the doctors are only going to have a little moment of ego stroke as people start to leave the nursing field, and people don't even get into the nursing field, and there's a shortage of nurses already. So as doctors have to do the brunt of the work and they start to make mistakes, and those mistakes start to mount up malpractice costs, even the doctors are going to suffer because of this situation. Now, again, going back to my analogy of Uno stacking, this is going to hurt the economy because foreigners who come here to get an education in nursing and see that as a track and a path forward, even if they go home or even if they stay here and contribute to our economy, they will no longer be able to do this. So by devaluing the educational system in America, you're essentially hurting the whole country, okay? Now, another thing it's going to do, it is going to bolster this perception of women as second-class citizens. Oh, you weren't able to become a doctor, and so you're just a nurse, when the truth is anything but. These people are consummate professionals who have to continue and continue and continue to get education, and that's why you can go to a nurse practitioner and you don't even have to go to a doctor, because they are just as educated and just as experienced as your medical doctors. So if you think any of this is happenstance or just chance or just people who are short-sighted, no. What I want you to know is that there is a plan to take this country down. And if you don't understand that these people have this as a plan, then, just wait till the next thing happens and you will further understand that this is the plan. This is a plot of some people who really don't have the same vision for America as you. Now, part of the plan is to have foreigners not want to come here. Part of the plan is to have some of the people jump ship. And so we as, and I'm just going to talk to the culture now, you know what I mean? What we have to understand is we've put a lot of our stock into education. We've put a lot of our stock into the political system. We've put a lot of our stock into the belief that, intellectualism would win the day. What we have to understand is that there is a spiritual war being fought. Okay. And so, again, that's why I don't care. I'll ride with Prophetess Celestial to the end, because she's been calling this all along. And if you don't see that these steps, and God is trying to tell you that these steps are lining up to put you in a certain position, and that is to roll us back 100, 200, 300 years to where women were in the kitchen, to where black people had nothing. If you don't see that that is the plan. Now, I understand that you would think that it's so insane that somebody would think like this in a modern era where we're moving into a technological society, where we're moving into more diversity, where people are traveling all over the world and the world over and seeing what the world is. What you have to get is that everybody does not necessarily see the world in the way that you see it, or want a world that is in the way that you see it, okay? And people drive policy. So policies don't just get written by themselves. There are people who drive those policies forward. Now, ultimately, this is not going to work out for those people who will pay the very, 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 very expensive price of racism over paying the price of diversity and tolerance and getting along with their neighbor. Okay, it's not going to work out ultimately, but in the short term, which I'm saying is the next maybe 5 to 10 years, we're going to suffer a lot for wanting to live in the ghost of a dead reality. Okay, so whatever reality you thought existed, that existed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that reality no longer exists. And you have to shake off this idea that there's anybody coming to save you, coming to change your condition other than yourself. Furthermore, my advice is that you have to put yourself in front of the line of everybody, period. Okay? Do not champion oligarchs because they've got money, billionaires because they've got money, these people because they play the game. They play the game in a certain way that leaves you on the outside and slowly but surely sucks everything from you, okay? And so what we have to do is we have to align with people who have the same kind of mindset as us, and we have to shut the door on people who want another vision of a reality for themselves, okay? Separation. We gotta separate. I'm not saying segregate, I'm saying separate. I'm saying get the heck away from people who only want to see you as a second-class citizen or worse.
So let's be clear about what is happening here, because this isn't just a bureaucratic decision about labels or categories. This is about whose work gets value and whose work doesn't. If you look at the numbers, you realize that most of these courses, if not all, are predominantly women courses. I have done my research and the percentages can tell you all. Now we have nursing. The percentage of the people pursuing nursing are 88%. 88% of them are women. The social work, 80 to 85% are women. The physical therapy, 65% of them are women. The audiology, 88% of them are women. Teaching, 76% of them are women. And even public health, over 60% of them are women. It seems like the Trump administration wasn't meant to make America better. It was meant to make America worse. Because if you look at the things that have been happening in America recently, you realize that it is not for the good of the people. And what's worse is that these people, majority of them, voted for Trump, knowing very well that his policies were not for their own good interest. If you look at these professions, these are the professions that save lives. And if you look at the courses that are to remain being professional, you realize that these are predominantly male courses. It doesn't matter the impact these courses have on the society, provided they are for males. And that is something that is so heartbreaking, that just because you're a woman, whatever you do is looked down on, despite the impact it has on the society. Because if you look at the nurses, these are the people that save lives. These are the people that spend their entire days, their entire nights looking after the people, so to ensure that they are in good health. If you look at the teachers, these are the people that are teaching the young people to become or to be able to pursue the courses that are now to be considered professional. But what does the Department of Education say? That your course is not a profession anymore. That is literally an insult to the integrity of these people. This decision will downgrade the women profession in the eyes of the federal government. That means that those who want to pursue these courses will have to go back into their pockets so that they can be able to afford these courses. That is basically telling them that there is no need of you studying, there is no need of you going to school, because there is no need of you going to school or going to study these courses if at all you're no longer going to be considered professional, because at the end of the day you will not be earning good salaries because your career or your course is not considered a profession, despite having spent so much money on tuition. What this government does not understand is that this decision or their decision will not just impact the women, it will also impact the society as a whole, because there will be fewer nurses, there will be fewer teachers, there will be fewer social workers, the shortages that are already there in education and healthcare. And this decision will make it even worse. All I can hope for is that this bill does not pass, because that will be the beginning of the downfall of the great America. Thank you guys for watching up to this point. If you're new here, this is Talk with Kate. If you haven't subscribed, kindly consider subscribing to this channel, like this video and share. Until the next episode, bye.